We have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. Bliss is not pleasure. Ecstasy is not brought about by thought. It is an entirely different thing, and you can only come upon that when you understand the nature of thought. Hello and welcome to episode 257 of Urgency of Change. Each episode of the Krishnamurti podcast is based on a significant theme of his talks. Extracts from the archives have been selected to represent Krishnamurti's different approaches to these universal and timelessly relevant themes. This episode's theme is Bliss, Ecstasy and Benediction. Upcoming topics are mechanical living, trust, and seeing. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust, based at Brockwood Park in the UK, which is also home to the Krishnamurti Retreat Centre. Situated in the beautiful countryside of the South Downs National Park, the Krishnamurti Centre offers retreats individually and in groups. The focus is on inquiry in light of Krishnamurti's teachings. Please visit krishnamurticentre.org.uk for more information, including our volunteer programme. You can also find our regular Krishnamurti quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app. This episode on Bliss, Ecstasy and Benediction has 5 sections. This first extract is from Krishnamurti's second talk in London, 1969, and is titled Bliss Is Not Pleasure.
Thought, thinking about an incident, an experience, a state in which there has been a disturbance, danger, grief, pain, brings about fear. Thought, having established a certain security, psychologically, and not wanting that security to be disturbed, any disturbance is a resistance and therefore fear. So thought is responsible for fear, as thought is responsible for pleasure. Right? One has had a happy experience. Thought thinks about it and wants it repeated, perpetuated. And when that is not possible, there is a resistance, there is anger, despair, and fear. So thought is both responsible for fear as well as pleasure. Right? This is not a verbal conclusion. This is not a formula for avoiding fear. That is, where there is fear, there is pain and pleasure. Pleasure goes with pain. The two are indivisible. And thought is responsible for both. Right? If there was no tomorrow or the next moment to think about either fear or pleasure, they neither exist. Right, sirs? Shall we go on from there? Please bear in mind, not as an idea, but an actuality, the thing that you yourself have discovered and therefore real. So you say, by Jove, I have found out for yourself that thought breeds both these things. You have had sexual enjoyment, pleasure. Then you think about it, the image, the pictures, the whole business of it. And the very thinking about it gives strength to that pleasure which you have had. And when that is thwarted, there is pain, anxiety, fear, jealousy, annoyance, anger, brutality. So thought is the origin of both. And we're not saying that you must not have pleasure. Bliss is not pleasure. Ecstasy is not brought about by thought. It's an entirely different thing. And you can only come upon that when you understand the nature of thought, which breeds both pleasure and fear. And when a mind seeks bliss or ecstasy, and there is such a thing which is not pleasure, and to understand that there must be real inquiry and understanding of fear and pleasure which is brought about by thought. So, then the question arises, can one stop thought? You're following all this? If thought breeds fear and pleasure, and where there is pleasure, there must be pain, which is fairly obvious. Then one asks oneself, can thought come to an end? Which doesn't mean the ending of perception of beauty, the enjoyment of beauty. It's like seeing the beauty of a cloud or a tree and be complete and enjoy it totally, completely, fully. But when thought says, I must have that same experience tomorrow, That same delight which I had yesterday when I saw that cloud, that tree, that flower, that face of that beautiful person. Then it invites both disappointment, pain, fear, and pleasure tomorrow. Obvious, isn't it? So can thought come to an end? Or is that a wrong question altogether? It's the wrong question because we want to experience an ecstasy, a bliss which is not pleasure. Therefore, we hope by ending thought we'll come upon something which is immense, which is not the product of pleasure and fear. So then our question then is, what place has thought in life? Right? Not how to end thought. What is there? What is the relationship of thought in action and in inaction? Right? What is the relationship of thought where action is necessary and why does thought come into existence at all when there is complete enjoyment of beauty? So that it doesn't carry it over tomorrow. I want to find out where thought is necessary. And it is necessary in action. And I also see that where there is complete enjoyment of beauty of a mountain, of a beautiful face, or a sheet of water, why should thought come there and give a twist to it and say, I must have that pleasure again tomorrow? So I have to find out what is a relationship of thought in action and thought must not interfere, which is when there is no action of thought at all.
The second extract is from the third talk in San Diego 1970 and is titled The Bliss of Total Revolution.
And that's our life. A life of conflict, a life that has really no meaning as it is. A life that is a battlefield, not only in yourself but also in your relationship. A life of division, contradiction, routine, monotonous. And a life that is, when you look at it very deeply, utterly lonely. A life that has no beauty And that is our life. And we are not exaggerating it. If you observe yourself very carefully, without any prejudice, bias, when you look at every human being right through the world, the saint, the priest, the specialist, the careerist, the ordinary layman, are all caught in this. And we want to escape from it. And so you escape through nationalism, through beliefs, through dogmas, through innumerable forms of entertainment, in which is included the religious entertainment. That's our life. Comparing ourselves with something that should be, comparing ourselves with the greater, with the nobler, with the more intelligent, with the more spiritual, and so on and on and on. And therefore, conflict and fear. This is our life. A battle for security, and in the very search of security, psychological as well as physical, we bring about destruction. These are obvious facts. And from this we want to escape, because man has lived like this for thousands and thousands of years, with sorrow, confusion, and great misery and mischief. And without changing all that completely, radically, mere outward revolution, changing a particular system for another system, does not solve this aching agony. There is only one revolution, the inward revolution. So, spitting on society, blaming society for your condition, is obviously blaming something which you have created. It's your society. You have built it. By your greed, envy, ambition, competitiveness, comparison, by one's own and inward hatreds, violence. So that is our life. Really quite insane life. Now, the question is, how can that life be changed? Not gradually, but immediately. Otherwise, you're sowing the seed of violence. Though you may want peace, you are actually sowing the seeds of enmity, misery. So, seeing all this, non-verbally, not as an explanation, not as an idea, but seeing it actually as it is, feeling it as you feel hunger. Therefore, being intimately related to it. And you cannot be deeply, beautifully related to this living, which we call life, as long as you have any form of escape from it, any form of distortion. So, awareness without choice, to be aware of this whole phenomenon of existence, not someone else's existence, not being aware of this, of our life according to somebody, some philosopher, some guru, some psychologist, but being aware of it actually, because you yourself see it. If one is so completely aware of it, and one must, because one cannot possibly live as we are living. We're talking inwardly, psychologically. A life that's torn. And if we want order, and order is virtue, order demands discipline. That is to learn, not to conform, not to imitate, but to learn. And to learn about the disorder, which is our life. To observe it, to learn. And in that observation comes an extraordinary discipline, not imposed by anybody, because the very observation itself has its own discipline. In the very act of observing, you are learning, and therefore the learning is the discipline. Please do see this, because we have imposed upon ourselves so many disciplines. The business discipline, the religious discipline, the family discipline. Of course, the military discipline is the most absurd kind of discipline. But we have got so many disciplines, the must and the must nots. Always conforming, imitating, suppressing. And being suppressed, wanting to fulfill. All that is disorder. So, to understand order, to learn about order, not what order should be, but to learn about it, one must learn about disorder. Right? Are we following each other? Or are you being mesmerized by words? Well, if you are, Topi, it's up to you. We said one must learn about disorder, which is our life, which is our mind, our heart, our very core of our being is disorder. Because if you say there is a soul, there is according to the Hindus, the Atman and so on, they're just theories. Philosophy has nothing to do with living. And we are trying to understand what living is. And we see in that living there is disorder, utter disorder. The battle, the misery, the confusion, the agony, the guilt, the fear. So one has to observe, without any choice, this disorder which is you, which is me. To observe it. Not what you want it to be. Then you create conflict between what is and what should be. And where there is conflict, there is disorder. Please do understand this thing very simply. Once you understand this, you will find that by observing disorder in oneself, without any distortion, without wanting to bring about order out of this disorder, trying to impose what you think is order upon disorder, but observe it without any choice, without any distortion, then out of that observation comes supreme order, the highest good. And in that, there is a total revolution. And from that, inward radical change, then there comes outward order, not the other way around. We want outward order first. And it's never been possible. Every revolution, including the communist revolution, said, forget about the inward order. Let's have state order. And you know what's happening. Every revolution has done this. Try to bring about outward order without paying any attention whatsoever to the psychological supreme order within oneself. And order means also not only virtue, but love. And what is love? I wonder if you ever asked that question. What love is? Have you? What is love? How will you find out? Only you'll find out what it is through what it is not. Through negation, the positive comes. But if you pursue the positive, then it is the pursuit of the projection of the mind. So when you deny all the projections of the mind, by denying, in a sense, setting it aside, negating, then you'll find out what it is. So that's what we're going to do. Find out what it is not, to find out what it is. Is this, can we go on? Right. We said, what is love? You know, that's one of the most important things in life. If one has love, you can do what you like. Then there is no conflict. Then there is no evil. There is great bliss.
The third extract is from Krishnamurti's sixth talk in New Delhi 1963 and is titled Ecstasy in Meditation.
Meditation is an extraordinary thing. There is an extraordinary beauty in it. It gives mind sensitivity, a heightened sharpness. So that your whole life is lived completely, fully in the active present. For most of us do not live totally with all our conscious and unconscious state and beyond. We only touch at the periphery. And this peripheral touch we call living, with all its agonies, contradictions, bestialities, cruelties, flatteries, insults, and all the rest of the human existence. That's where we touch. We are talking of a meditative mind that is totally aware, not only the peripheral movement, but the whole content of consciousness, and thereby to go beyond it. Otherwise there is no meditation. Otherwise it's mere self-hypnotism, caught in a series of ideas, in images, a conditioned projection of Christ or Buddha or your Sri Krishna or your particular guru, and seeing visions and getting terribly excited about those normal conditional responses which have no meaning at all. So we are talking about something entirely different. We are talking about a meditative mind that is in the full flow of life, without fear, and therefore without hope, without despair, and therefore seeing beauty, living in a state of complete cooperation, and therefore in a state of love. That's what we're going into. as we said just now, to understand or to find out the beginning of meditation, the beginning. If you don't understand the beginning, you'll not understand the end. Because the beginning, the end is in the beginning, not away at a distance. Therefore, you have to understand completely what the beginning is, completely, with all your being. So don't, please, if I may suggest or request, don't say at the end, you haven't taught me how to meditate. I haven't a silent mind. What am I to do? Those are questions that are utterly immature. Those questions indicate a mind that has not gone into itself and discovered the whole process of its own thought, the flowering of this whole being. So, all we know is the observer and the observed. Which is the experiencer and the thing experienced, or the thinker and the thought. That's all we know. That is the fact which you find out for yourself and you observe yourself. The thinker trying to control thought. The thinker trying to shape thought. The thinker trying to impose discipline, trying to understand this thing that wanders away from moment to moment, this thought. And so we know only the contradiction and the conflict between the thinker and the thought. Please, you're not listening to me, to the speaker. You're observing yourself. What the speaker says is very little importance. What is important is to observe how your own mind is operating. And merely to listen to the speaker so that he acts as a mirror for your observation and nothing else. To observe. And you will see how this process, this conflict is our life. From the moment we are born till we die. This battle goes on day after day endlessly. The thinker accumulating, chastening his thoughts, refining or controlling, and what he wants is to so completely control all thought so that he lives in a state of sterile decay because he is controlled. And that's all what your meditation means. Just to control your feelings, your thoughts, the duties, the responsibilities, the ugliness of one's life. And in that framework, you try to meditate. Therefore, you may alter character a little bit here and there. You may become a little more quiet, more considerate. But character, which is really the reaction to a particular society, however necessary, will not bring freedom of a mind that can meditate, that is in a state of an extraordinary ecstasy. And there is that ecstasy. So, the question then is it possible to remove this conflict totally between the thinker and the thought? Please see the problem, understand the problem first. If you exercise will to bring about a complete harmony between the thinker and the thought, between the innumerable experiences of the past and the present movement of experiencing, which is the response of the past in the present. If you merely exercise a decision, exercise will to control, who is the entity that exercises that will? It is still the thinker. You may call it the higher self, the Atman, or give it all kinds of superficial or traditional names, but it is still within the field of thought. Therefore, what is within the field of thought is not the real. Thought is merely the response of memory. You have been brought up to believe in an Atman, and another man might not be brought up to believe in anything. You are just conditioned. You're not, because you use the word Atman or God, you're not godly. To find God, to realize that extraordinary thing, you need a mind that is astonishingly new, innocent. A mind that has that energy which is not contaminated by conflict.
The fourth extract is from the sixth talk in Madras 1981 and is titled The Benediction of Living a Life That is Whole.
Meditation is unpremeditated art. Have you got it? Am I right? I said meditation is unpremeditated art. You can't prepare for meditation. There is no system, no method. The system, the method is premeditated. Somebody has thought he has meditated, invented a system, and we follow that, hoping something to get. So one has to find out what it is unpremeditated art, which is meditation. You understand, sir? I'll go into it. First of all, we can banish all the systems, all the methods, the postures, the breathing, forcing the mind, thought to control, and so on, so on. The controller is the controlled. Right? Thought creates the controller, and then the controller says, I must control thought in order to meditate, or rather, to meditate, which is so obviously silly. So, systems, methods, the idea of controlling thought, or thought identifying itself with something, a picture, an image, a symbol, and concentrating on that. I don't know if you're following all this. And there's this nonsensical transcendental meditation, which is really a glorified racket, money-making racket. I know you won't like some of you who probably have done this. You pay to your somebody 10 rupees or 10,000 rupees, and if you get it straight from the horse's mouth, you pay all your income. And he gives you a mantra. I've been told a mantra means, the root meaning and the depth of that word means ponder, consider, meditate upon not becoming, and absolve, dissolve all self-centered activity. That's what that word apparently means. But look what it has become. You can repeat without going through giving off money to somebody to tell you the mantra. You can invent your own mantra. Coca-Cola. Yes, yes, sir. Don't laugh. You're all doing it. Or any other catchword. Repeat it for 10 minutes, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes in the evening. And the rest of the day you can do all the mischief you want. Take a siesta. You understand a siesta, what it means? 20 minutes rest. Go to sleep. Put your brain to sleep by repeating. In the afternoon, so on, so on. So that's not meditation. So we're going to find out what is meditation. If you are really interested to find out. Not how to meditate. What is the depth and the beauty and the reality and the immense possibility of meditation. The word means ponder, to think over, be concerned. The dictionary meaning of that word. But the word is not the thing, right? The word meditation is not meditation. And why should one meditate at all? Is meditation separate from life? That is our daily living. The office, the family, the sex, the pursuit of ambition, daily life. Is that separate from meditation? Or is meditation part of life? You understand? You understand my question? Part of life. If it is separate and you meditate in order to live better life, in order to be better, follow, then you are imposing certain concepts on actuality. Certain experience of others, essentially of others, on what you think should happen. Now, if you can deny all that, you understand? Please, this is very serious what we're talking about, unless you are really very serious to go into it, don't play with it. It is to deny everything that man has thought about meditation. About silence, about truth, about eternity, whether there is a timeless state and so on. To be free of other people's knowledge completely. And that goes very, very far. That is, to deny your gods, your sacred books, your tradition, your beliefs, everything wiped away, because you understand they are the result of thought. Which means you're totally, psychologically not dependent on anything. Which means you are free of fear. No longer touched by sorrow. Which doesn't mean that you become hard, bitter, cruel. And without love and compassion, there is no meditation. So life, living every day in this world, which is corrupt beyond words, which is immoral, destructive, without a sense, lack of integrity, living in this world, surrounded by all this. To have that sense of total freedom, which is absolute freedom. Because you have denied everything that man has thought out, except technological world. I don't have to repeat that over and over again. Because then you are the mind, then you enter into quite a different dimension, which is the mind. Not you enter, there is the mind. Mind is entirely different from the brain. And that mind cannot be understood or known or perceived unless the brain, with all its sensory responses, is understood. That is, to see something, see the seed, the sea, the sheet of water, or anything of nature, with all your senses. With all your senses. Not merely with your eyes or hear one thing, with all your senses. When you perceive with all your senses, there is no recording. There is no I. It's only when we perceive something partially, then the partial thing creates the me which is partial. So, when the brain is totally free from all accumulated psychological knowledge, then there is the mind. I won't go into that. Then that becomes a theory. You understand? Unless one has done all this, actually, you can test it out. You can see it in your daily life. If that is not tested out in daily life, it's not worth it. So when there is this absolute denial of all the psychological accumulation, then the mind, when the brain becomes very quiet, it hasn't to be induced to be quiet. Then illumination is not an experience. Illumination means to see things clearly as they are and to go beyond them. And in our lives there is very little beauty. Not the beauty of form, actual beauty in our life. And that beauty cannot exist without love. And when there is love and compassion, it has its own intelligence. That intelligence acts, which is whole, which is right action. All this is meditation. And there is immense beauty in it. Great sense of aesthetic appreciation and the perception of the world. And in that, there is great benediction, not from your gods, but the benediction of living a life which is whole.
The final extract in this episode is from the fourth talk in Bombay 1985 and is titled, "That Benediction is Where You Are."
Is there something beyond all time and space? Is there something that has never been seen before by any man? Is there something immensely sacred? Is there something that the brain has never touched? So we're going to find out. If you have done the first step, which is wipe away all this rubbish called religion, is because you have used your brain, your logic, your doubt, your question. Then, what is meditation? Well, that's part of so-called religion. What is meditation? To escape from the noise of the world? To have a silent mind, a quiet mind, a peaceful mind? And you practice systems, methods to become aware. Systems, methods, a mold to keep your thoughts under control. Sit cross-legged. Repeat some mantra. I've been told the meaning of that word etymologically means ponder over not becoming. And that's one of the meanings. And absorb all, put aside all self-centered activity. That's the real root, one of the root meanings of mantra. But we repeat, and carry on with our self-interest ways, our egotistic ways. So mantra has lost its meaning. So what is meditation? Is meditation a conscious effort? You meditate consciously, practice in order to achieve something. To achieve a quiet mind, brain. To achieve a sense of stillness of the brain. What's the difference between that meditator and the man who says, I want money, so I'll work for it? What's the difference between the two? Both are seeking an achievement. Right? The one is called spiritual achievement, the other is called mundane achievement. They are both in the line of achievement. So, to the speaker, that's not meditation at all. Any conscious, deliberate, active desire with its will is not meditation. So one has to ask, is there a meditation that's not brought about by thought? Is there a meditation of which you are, speaker was going to say, you are not aware of? You understand all this? Any deliberate process of meditation is not meditation. That's so obvious. You can sit cross-legged for the rest of your life and meditate, breathe, and all the rest of that business, and you will not come anywhere near the other thing. Because that's a deliberate action to achieve a result. The cause and the effect. But the effect is never becomes the cause. So it's a cycle you're caught. So is there a meditation that's not put together by desire, by will, by effort? The speaker says there is. You don't have to believe it. On the contrary, you must doubt it. You must question it, as the speaker has questioned it, doubted it, torn it apart. Is there a meditation that's not contrived, organized? To go into that, one must understand the brain, which is conditioned, a brain which is limited, and that brain is trying to comprehend the limitless, the immeasurable, the timeless. If there is such thing as the timeless. And for that, sound is important to understand. Sound and silence go together. If you don't understand sound, the depth of sound, but we have separated sound from silence. Sound is the word. Sound is your heart beating. The universe is filled with sound. Universe in the sense the whole earth, all the heavens, that the million stars, the whole sky is filled with sound. Obviously, you don't have to listen to scientists about it. And we make that sound something intolerable. So we want to have a brain that's quiet, peaceful. But when you listen to sound, the very listening is the silence. Silence and sound are not separate. So meditation is something that's not contrived, organized. Meditation is it begins at the first step, which is to be free of all your hurts, psychological hurts, to be free of all your accumulated fears, anxieties, loneliness, despair, sorrow. That's the foundation. That's the first step. And the first step is the last step. If you take that first step, that's over. But we are unwilling to take that first step. Because we don't want to be free. We want to depend. Depend on power, what other people. Depend on environment. Depend on our experience, knowledge. We're always depending. And never be free of all dependence, all fear. And therefore the ending of sorrow is love. Where there is that love, there is compassion. And that compassion has its own integral intelligence. And when there's that intelligence acts, it always action is true. There is no conflict in that where there is that intelligence. You've heard all this. You've heard the ending of fear, the ending of sorrow, beauty and love. But the hearing is one thing and action is another. You hear all these things which are true, logical, sane, rational. But you won't act according to that. You'll go home and begin all over again. Your worries, your conflicts, your miseries. So one asks, what's the point of it all? What's the point of listening to this speaker and not living it? And the listening and not doing is the wastage of your life. If you listen to something that is true and not act, you're wasting your life. And life is much too precious. It's the only thing that we have. And we've also lost touch with nature, which means we've lost touch with ourselves, which is part of nature. We don't love trees, the birds, the waters and the mountains. You're destroying the earth. And we're destroying each other. And all that is such a waste of life. When one realizes all this, not merely intellectually or verbally, then one lives a religious life. Not put on a loincloth or go around begging or join a monastery. That's not a religious life. Religious life begins when there is no conflict. When there is this sense of love. One can love another your wife or your husband. But that love is shared by all human beings. It's not given to one person and therefore restricted. So there is, if you give your heart and mind, brain, there is something that is beyond all time. And there is a benediction of that. Not in temples, not in churches, not in mosques. That benediction is where you are.